Test.
Turn it off. Hold on one second. One second. Are you not streaming now? It says you are streaming.
Test, test. The buzzing's still there. Yeah, mute the whole session real quick.
For the delay, a technical YouTube will be audio only and available tomorrow. Is that correct? Okay. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Susan, would you do roll call, please?
Mayor Copeland is absent. Tom Baylor.
Here.
Kathy Sherman.
Here.
Jeff Gard. Melina Meyer. Ann Schaefer.
Here.
David Allison.
Here.
And David Gleason is absent. That's a quorum of council.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
There's a motion to approve the agenda. Are there any changes? Hearing none.
Well, just that we won't need the executive session.
Oh, okay, that's right. So we do not need the executive session, and that is the one change. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. What did I do?
Anybody oppose the agenda?
Oh, sorry. Anybody opposed to approving the agenda? It's not there. Hearing none. Disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. Hearing none. Communications by and petitions from visitors. Do we have anyone from incident management, Helen?
No.
Okay. Are there any audience comments regarding agenda items? You have 3 minutes. Seeing none. Chairpersons and representatives of boards and commissions. And no one from the hospital then, Helen?
No.
Okay. Mr. Rustin, did you want to come forward?
to answer your question, not really. But,
Oh. Well, it's good to see you.
no, thank you. Alex Rustin, Superintendent. Yeah, so I drew the short end of the stick, and I'm here tonight. I haven't been here for quite a while, and it's good to be back hearing the conversation. As far as school goes, we just wrapped up our first quarter of school, and we've got about 2 weeks until Thanksgiving, and then another 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that before Christmas break. So we might as well be halfway done with the school year, as far as in my mind. But things have been going pretty well at school. As I said, first quarter just wrapped up, and activities are in full swing. We've got teams traveling, teams visiting. We just had a volleyball match last weekend against Lumen Christie. They came and visited and played some ball, and yeah, I think that's where we are. And looking forward to the conversation next week with City Council and the school board, and we'll sort of dig into starting our budget development process probably the first part of January or so. That's usually a several month undertaking for us, and looking at revenues and expenditures and so forth. And you guys know the drill about that, but that's what sort of is on the radar for us. But happy to take any. I guess 2 pieces of information. Cordova High School was named by U.S. News and World Report as I think it's in the top 5 high schools in Alaska. So came in at number 5. And U.S. News and World Report also identified Mount Echols in the top 30 elementary schools in Alaska. So things are going well on that end. Always room for improvement, and we're trying to figure out ways to increase student performance, increase parent engagement, and so forth. So those will be some things that we're working on as the year progresses. With that, if you had any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Are there any questions from council? Councilman Allison.
I don't have a question, just a comment. This coming Monday, there's alumni volleyball games. Yes, at
6:15. Yeah, thank you. I had that in my notes, but thanks for mentioning that.
Anybody else? I have a real quick question. Are you still struggling to fill vacancies?
We are. There's definitely, we had 4 or 5 special education instructional aid positions, and we filled 2 of those, 1 full-time and 1 part-time person. So we've kind of been flexible with whoever's available schedule to try to fill positions to help meet the student needs. We do have an accounting clerk position available in our district office, and that was due to retirement of Robin Butler. We know her, so we're looking to fill that position. And we do have a couple of other positions. We'll have a kitchen helper position in about 2 weeks that we're needing to fill. So it's been a challenge. I think a lot of businesses and organizations in town, I think from what I hear, have really struggled to fill positions. And we're trying to ascertain if it's wages, if it's leadership, if it's pandemic, whatever it may be, but we know that everybody's in the same boat. But appreciate the people who have volunteered, who have subbed, and who have applied for those positions. So, thank you.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I don't think it's not just Cordova either. It's everywhere I've been: Anchorage, Seattle, Vancouver, Montana. Every place you go, there's help wanted signs. So I'm not sure what the deal is, but need to get people to go back to work.
Thank you, Mr. Rustin.
Yeah, thank you.
And student council, we have no report in the packet today. Okay. Approval of consent calendar. Anybody want to pull anything out? Hearing none.
So on the consent calendar, David Gleason is absent. Jeff Gard? Melina Meyer? Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
Tom Baylor,
Yes.
David Allison,
Yes.
and Ann Schaefer.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
We have no, well, the minutes were in the consent calendar. Consideration of bids, we have none. Reports of officers, the mayor's report, is hunting. City manager's report.
Sure, I'll be brief. The redistricting board came to Cordova on Monday, and I think there's probably about 12 or 13 people who participated. They flew in and were fully engaged and listened to testimony from those that wanted to participate. They're actively moving towards getting a map approved. They have until the 10th of November, so we're in the final stages of that. It is something that people might be interested in looking into online. If you just Google search Alaska redistricting, you can find a website, and they have an interactive reporting system there, and you can watch that. Also on YouTube, they are allowing people to participate and observe their deliberations. So we will soon know what's going to happen there and where we're going to get placed. And I think they did hear us all say that we felt pretty strongly that we wanted to remain with other coastal communities, and I think all the maps that they're engaged in right now do put us there, so we'll see where we end up. We start collective bargaining agreement negotiations with the IBEW union tomorrow, and that will be progressing over the next week or so. And then finally, we had a disappointment. Swell Development, which was the company that was going to come in and build a 15-unit housing building here. They did not receive the tax credits that were needed from Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. Cordova did not qualify. We, as a community, have too high of a average income, and we are not going to qualify for any of those tax credits that would be necessary to make that project work here. So that was a big bummer, but we're going to continue pursuing every housing development opportunity that we can. We're doing a lot of research, and Curtis Fincher, who is our communications and special projects person, has been assigned to take on and tackle the housing problem. And that's it for me. Thank you.
City clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any questions for the manager, Councilman Schaefer?
Well, you're in a hurry tonight.
Is there an update on, or what's the status of the audit?
The audit is still in progress. We continue to answer questions. I don't expect that until probably, we're lucky, the beginning of December.
Are there any other questions for the manager, Councilman Baylor?
More of a question, maybe a suggestion, staying with that housing crunch that we have there. And I'm going to bring this up at pending agenda, but I put it now to talk a little bit more about it. But I still think that we need to come to grips as a council and give direct direction to the planner and to the Planning and Zoning Commission that residential lots need to be held back for single family or multiple family housing units, not storage lots or garages. And until we do that, we're going to keep this ongoing theme of getting things in front of us. But we obviously have a housing problem, and I don't know what the manager's thoughts on that, but I think that's one way we can help relieve it, is with residential lots being available.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. Any comments on any of the correspondence? Anything on the phone for correspondence? Hearing none. Ordinances and resolutions, there are none. Unfinished business, there is none. New and miscellaneous business, discussion of COVID-19 emergency response. Hearing none. We're to pending agenda, CIP list, calendar, elected and appointed official list, and the budget preparation schedule and work sessions.
Well, there we go, pending agenda. I'd like council to take up on the agenda, basically, housing crunch, residential lots, have the discussion, possibly have the discussion, give direction, plan and zoning, where we want to go with that.
I'm in agreement with that. Councilman Ellison.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that too, but along with that, and maybe it's in addition to that, but along with that, I'd like to consider some other incentives for building new construction, remodels, whatever. You know, it's initially thinking, you know, Main Street revitalization, but anywhere, any investment in Cordova's, in your property in Cordova doesn't cost the city anything. There might be a lost opportunity if, for example, we were to waive any new property taxes on a new construction of a family home for 5 years, or you know, a certain time frame. I just throwing that out as an example, but to give some extra incentive for people to invest in those type of things. You know, if they were looking for tax credits from AHFC, but if they could also get a tax break from the city and not have to worry about calculating property taxes in on their development for 5 years or whatever we decide that could be. You know, it might entice somebody. And that doesn't cost the city anything except lost opportunity for that number of years or however long you said it. So I'd like to have the discussion about incentives for investing in businesses, home developing, all those kind of things. I would like to see us have some investment incentive programs out there for the community. So.
Okay, somebody capture everything that was just said and tell me how I'm writing it on pending agenda. Are we having agenda items?
Incentives for investment is what I would call it.
And does that capture
Simply
what
that.
the trailer said
Well-
also, or not?
And that one was city-owned property.
Just giving direction to
Direction.
planning and zoning?
Residential lot,
Residential lot,
Residential.
discussion of,
residential lot priority for city-owned
Yeah,
there you go,
property.
priority. And along with that,
Okay.
incentive.
Give
incentives.
them a tax break on that too.
Mhm, mhm.
And so you know that Curtis is investigating all the communities all across the country and what different people are doing to incentivize housing. So we may not have a working paper yet for you, but hearing that is something, maybe we can kind of coordinate that working paper with your conversation and make sure you have all the information of opportunities, what those will look like, because there are a lot of them.
So can I put this on pending agenda and say that, you know, staff will report when they have answers, but then council to have a discussion item maybe after the first of the year? Or sooner than that?
I think that the planning commission direction around city-owned property could happen immediately. But all those incentives, I'd like to give Curtis an opportunity to give us as much information as possible, because I know I'm not as informed about what those could look like. I think there's a lot of innovative things going on.
So the direction automatically to planning department, and then we come back with when Curtis is ready.
How about if we keep it
Separate
separate?
them.
Yeah.
I'll keep them separate, okay.
All right, I
That's
think we
good.
can capture.
Mhm.
Because I think we can give direction to planning commission
Get that out of the way.
sooner, you know, I mean, yeah, as far as whether we're gonna sell a lot or not for some purpose.
Yeah. And just because a question may come up, can we put residential and then commercial lots, just in case somebody wants to lead down that road?
Anything else for pending agenda, Susan?
I was just going to say that next week, November 10th, we are going to have the 6 p.m. at the school work session, a joint work session with the school board there. Then we're going to come over here and we're actually going to throw a special meeting at first before our budget work session because CDFU is going to get me some information and we'll put together a resolution supporting what they're suggesting for Board of Fish proposals because those are due by November 15th. So this way we'll get that resolution passed next week. And then I think Helen wants an executive session with you guys on CBA negotiations and how that's going after her week of negotiating. So we can do both of those, but that'll have to be a special meeting and we'll follow it with a budget work session. That's all I have.
Is that here? Or
So after the school board one, yes, we're going to move back over here. But don't all get a ride in the car together coming back over. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, let's see. That brings us to audience participation. Any comments from our audience? Seeing none. Council comments. We'll start on the phone. Councilman Guard. Thank you, Jeff. Councilman Meyer? Okay, Melina. Councilman Schaefer?
Yeah, I just say thank you to Duncan and Sam for their excellent and very informative presentations. And then also, great job to the museum and library staff for those successful grants. Really good job. And thanks, everyone.
Councilman Baylor?
Yeah, I would echo what Ann just said, and it's refreshing, and we get people in, and I said it, fresh eyes taking a look at stuff. That's great, and I think council needs to also do that. The manager has started to do that recently with our health plan, but council needs to get these RFPs out and start looking at what we've got, who we've been using. Is there better options, and particularly with our finance and other things. So we need to do the same. You see what happens when somebody fresh comes in, fresh ideas, fresh look at it. We should be doing the same. Thanks.
Councilman Allison?
ditto all of the above. Thank you.
There's nothing left to say. And there's no executive session, so.
Move to adjourn. Second.
And hearing no objections, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Kathy. Hope you're feeling better.